Seriously? Kale muttered, kicking the base of the bizarre rock formation. Moss and strange phosphorescent fungi clung to the dark stone, pulsating faintly in the humid jungle air of Xanthus Prime. Embedded halfway into the rock, like a cosmic joke, was a sword, or something like it. The hilt was smooth, black, techno-organic material that seemed to absorb the already dim light, but the blade itself shimmered with an internal energy, casting faint, shifting patterns on the surrounding decay. Who leaves a perfectly good glow-stick sword in a rock on a deserted planet? He was supposed to be scavenging crashed freighter components, not LARPing some ancient legend. Still, the boredom was crushing and the potential scrap value. He wrapped his worn synth leather glove around the hilt. It felt strangely warm, almost alive, humming with a low vibration that traveled up his arm. All right, Excalibur wannabe, let's see what you got. He braced his boots against the mossy ground and pulled hard. He expected resistance, maybe a futile grunt before giving up. Instead, the blade slid free with an unnerving lack of friction, emitting a soft, resonant chime that echoed through the ruins. It felt lighter than it looked, perfectly balanced. Rain symbols along the blade flared brighter, cycling through colors: electric blue, vibrant magenta, sun gold. Kale stared at it, momentarily stunned. Ha! Okay, maybe worth something after all, he grinned, holding it aloft with mock solemnity. Behold! Kale, king of getting distracted from actual work. A shadow detached itself from the deeper gloom of the crumbling archway nearby. It moved with a fluid grace that wasn't natural, too silent, too smooth. Kale froze. The stupid grin wiped from his face, instinctively tightening his grip on the humming sword. A figure emerged into the dappled light filtering through the jungle canopy. Female, definitely not human. Taller than him by a head, leanly muscled, covered in iridescent scales that shifted from emerald green to deep violet with her slightest movement. Bioluminescent markings pulsed along her limbs and sharp cheekbones, currently a warning yellow. A long, powerful tail tipped with a cluster of brighter lights swayed slowly behind her, like a predator assessing prey. Her eyes, large and feline with vertical pupils fixed on the sword, then snapped to his face. They glowed with the same yellow intensity as her markings. Her voice, when she spoke, was a low resonant hum overlaid with sharp clicks and whistles, somehow translated by the subtle tech woven into her attire, or maybe the sword itself. You desecrate this place, you hold the Starfang. Her gaze was heavy, accusatory. She took a step closer, and Kale caught her scent. Ozone, crushed spice, and something wild, unsettlingly floral. Yet, it yields to you. He raised his free hand defensively. Look, lady, no offense intended. I just found it. Thought it was junk. He tried a reassuring smile. It felt weak, stupid. You can have it back, no problem. Her head tilted, the light patterns on her face shifting to a curious cyan. It cannot be given back. It chooses. It has chosen. She took another fluid step, closing the distance until she was barely an arm's length away, close enough for him to see the fine texture of her scales, the rapid pulse of light under her jawline. Her tail gave an inquisitive flick, the tip brushing his hip. He jumped, startled. Chosen? Chosen what? Look, I'm just a scavenger, all right? KO, no royalty here. She reached out, her long three-fingered hand hovering over the sword hilt still clutched in his grip. Her own markings flared brighter. The Starfang sings in your grasp, a song on RD for cycles. Her fingers deliberately brushed his gloved hand. A jolt, like static electricity but stronger, deeper, shot up his arm. The sword hummed louder, its lights swirling faster. It proclaims you? Her intense yellow eyes locked onto his. King! Kale swallowed hard, the weird energy from the sword and her touch buzzing under his skin. King of what? This damp, ruined rock pile? Her? He had a very bad feeling this salvage run had just gone spectacularly sideways. She was too close. Her presence overwhelming his senses, the strange scent, the shifting lights, the palpable heat radiating from her. He was trapped between an ancient, humming sword and a dangerously beautiful alien who seemed convinced he was royalty. He just wanted power cores. The air crackled, not just from the lingering energy of the sword, but from the sky itself. A low rumble vibrated through the stone floor of the ruin, growing rapidly into a deafening roar. Outside the crumbling archway, the dense jungle canopy was suddenly illuminated by strobing flashes of violent purple light. Ion storm. Fast, brutal, and common enough on Xanthus Prime that Kale should have checked the damn forecast. Scrap, he swore, glancing towards the archway as stinging. Hard rain began to lash down, the alien woman Xylia. Did the translator implant whisper her name, or did he just imagine it? Didn't flinch. Her gaze remained fixed on him, though the lights on her skin pulsed with a slightly agitated rhythm, shifting towards oranges and deep reds. "We must seek deeper shelter," she stated, her resonant voice cutting through the storm's howl. She turned fluidly and glided towards a shadowed opening further into the ruins, clearly expecting him to follow. Kale hesitated for only a second. Staying out here meant getting fried or worse, following the gorgeous, potentially delusional alien who called him king into deeper, unknown ruins seemed marginally better. Marginally. He clutched the still humming Starfang and hurried after her. The passage descended steeply, the air growing cooler, thick with the smell of damp earth and something else. Metallic, ancient. The storm's noise faded behind them, replaced by the soft drip of water and the faint thrum of the sword in his hand. They emerged into a large circular chamber. Faded murals covered the curved walls, depicting figures that looked disturbingly like Xylia leading processions, wielding similar energy blades. A faint ambient light emanated from rum crystals embedded in the ceiling, casting long, dancing shadows. Xylia stopped near the center, turning to face him. The lights on her skin had calmed back to a mix of cyan and green pulsing gently. She circled him slowly, her movements mesmerizing, predatory. Her gaze flickered between his face and the sword. The storm will pass. The resonance disturbance, it attracts unwanted attention. Unwanted attention? Kale asked, shifting his weight nervously. Like what, worse storms, bigger lizards? He tried to sound casual, but his voice cracked slightly. She paused directly in front of him, tilting her head again. Close. Too close. He could feel the warmth radiating from her body, see the intricate patterns of her scales. Like those who covet the star fang? Those who resent its choice. She reached out again, not for the sword this time, but towards his chest, stopping just shy of touching him. Kale instinctively leaned back. Easy there. Personal space, human thing. Her lips, thin and dark, curved slightly. Was that amusement? Your energy field is chaotic? Unshielded. Her fingers twitched, longing to make contact. The sword amplifies it, makes you a beacon. Great, just what I needed. More ways to get noticed. He did the sword. So this thing is basically a giant come kill me sign? It is a key, she corrected, her voice soft but firm. A conduit, a claim. Her gaze intensified. It chose you, Ka'el. Outsider, human. She finally closed the small distance, her scaled fingertips gently pressing against the fabric of his jacket right over his heart. He froze. The touch wasn't painful, but it sent another one of those strange jolts through him, deeper this time, resonating in his bone. Her own lights pulsed brighter, mirroring his sudden spike in heart rate. Why, she murmured, more to herself than to him, her eyes searching his face. Why you? He couldn't answer. He was too caught up in the sensation of her touch, the alienness of it. The unexpected intimacy in this ancient, hidden chamber. Her scent filled his nostrils, ozone and spice, strangely intoxicating now. The sword in his hand felt like an extension of the connection, humming in time with the thrumming energy under her fingertips. He should push her away, demand answers, run. But he didn't. He just stood there, pinned by her gaze, her touch, the pulsing lights reflecting in his wide eyes, while the storm raged forgotten above them. The ion storm finally subsided, leaving the jungle dripping and unnaturally quiet. Xylia indicated they needed to move, gesturing towards another passage leading out of the circular chamber. My vessel is hidden beyond the sunken city, her translated voice echoed slightly in the enclosed space. We must reach it before others track the Starfang's awakening. Kale eyed the dark passage dubiously. Sunken city? Sounds delightful, full of charm, and probably leeches the size of my boot. He hefted the starfang. It still felt weirdly light, humming faintly. And who are these others, exactly? Rivals, she said simply, already moving towards the passage with that disconcerting grace. Those who believe power is seized, not chosen. She glanced back, her yellow eyes challenging. Are you coming, King? He gritted his teeth at the title but followed. Complaining wouldn't get him off this rock. Maybe her ship had comms, a way to contact his own aging freighter, the Rusty Nebula. Maybe he could ditch her and the sword there. The journey was treacherous. They navigated crumbling walkways over murky water, pushed through thick bioluminescent vines that pulsed with light when touched, and scrambled over slick algae-covered stones. Zelia moved like a dancer, her tail providing balance, her senses seemingly alerting her to hidden pitfalls. Kale, meanwhile, stumbled, slipped, and cursed under his breath constantly. Need a hand, your majesty? Xylia asked, pausing on a narrow ledge above a chasm, her voice laced with what sounded suspiciously like amusement. She offered him a hand, her scaled fingers strong and cool. He scowled, but took it, needing the leverage to pull himself up. The jolt of connection was there again, less surprising now, more familiar. He pulled his hand back quickly once he was stable. Just Kale, and I'm fine. Your movements are inefficient, she observed, resuming her pace. Loud. You rely too much on sight. Yeah, well, my species didn't exactly evolve leaping through glowing jungles after glow-stick sword cultists, he retorted, ducking under a low-hanging branch, dripping viscous fluid. We prefer things like floors and maybe gravity plating. She stopped, turning so quickly he almost bumped into her. Her lights flared briefly, a flash of magenta. We are the Lumina. And this, she gestured around them at the ancient, overgrown structures, was our cradle, before the fading. Fading? She didn't elaborate, just studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable in the shifting light. The starfang chooses strength, resonance, potential. It sees something in you, Kael. Her gaze dropped to the sword, then back to his face. Perhaps, I begin to see it too. He felt a flush creep up his neck. Was she flirting or just stating alien facts? With her, the line was impossibly blurry. He cleared his throat. Right, well, potential king needs potential right off this planet. Lead on. He tried to sound dismissive, but his heart was doing a stupidly fast rhythm against his ribs. She gave that slight curve of her lips again and turned away, her tail flicking playfully close to his arm as she moved. He watched the sway of her hips, the mesmerizing patterns of light shifting across her back and tail. Okay, maybe being stranded with a possibly crazy, definitely dangerous, undeniably captivating alien warrior princess wasn't the absolute worst fate. He just had to keep his head, and his hands to himself, probably. Easier said than done when every accidental brush sent sparks flying, and her weird, spicy scent seemed designed to short-circuit his brain. The sunken city was less sunken, more reclaimed by the jungle swamp, but they finally reached the coordinates Zelia was heading for. A cleverly disguised land-in G-pad hidden beneath overgrown architecture. A sleek, dark vessel rested there, shaped like a stylized predator bird, silent and waiting. Hope surged in Kale, civilization, or at least technology more advanced than a sword stuck in a rock. The relief was short-lived. As they approached the ship, figures detached themselves from the shadows surrounding the landing pad. More Lumina, 3 of them. They moved with the same unsettling grace as Xylia, their scaled skin shimmering, bioluminescent patterns pulsing, but theirs held harsher edges, colder colors, predominantly deep blues and stark whites. Their eyes, fixed on Kale and the starfang, were hard, unwelcoming. The lead figure, broader than the others, stepped forward. His markings flared a challenging crimson. Zelia, you return, and you bring this. His translated voice was a low growl, laced with contempt as his gaze swept over Kale. He holds the blade, an off-worlder, an ape. Kale bristled. Hey, watch the ape talk, buddy. Last I checked, apes didn't pull magic swords from rocks. Zelia stepped smoothly in front of Kale, positioning herself between him and the newcomer. Her own lights flared, a protective, vibrant gold, her tail lashing slowly behind her. Vorlog! Say, and down. The Starfang has chosen. Its song is clear. Vorlag sneered, a distinctly unpleasant expression on his sharp features. The blade is ancient, perhaps flawed. Confused by this creature's primitive energy, it requires a true Lumina hand. A hand like mine, he flexed his own clawed fingers suggestively. He is unworthy. Kale felt a surge of anger, less about the insult and more about the way Vorlag dismissed Zilia's words, the possessive way he looked at the sword. He gripped the hilt tighter, the hum intensifying in his palm as if responding to his ire. Zilia didn't back down. Her posture radiated dominance, her head held high. His worthiness is not for you to decide. It is affirmed by the blade itself. He is under my protection. Vorlag's eyes narrowed, shifting between Zilia and Kale. The two lumina behind him shifted restlessly, their lights pulsing in agitation. The air grew thick with tension, the scent of ozone sharpening, Zilia's protective scent mixing with Vorlag's aggressive one. Protection? Vorlag scoffed. Or are you merely claiming the consort prize that comes with the king, Zilia, always ambitious, even in exile? Xylia's tail smacked sharply against the stone ground, a resounding crack. Her lights showed a dangerous scarlet. Choose your next words carefully, Vorlag, unless you wish to test the blade's judgment directly. Kale watched the exchange, fascinated and slightly terrified. Xylia wasn't just defending him, she was asserting her authority, playing a dangerous game of politics he didn't understand. And the way Vorlag mentioned consort prize, that added a whole new layer of awkward complication he definitely wasn't ready for. He cleared his throat, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. Look, Vorlag, right? How about we just calm down? I don't want any trouble. Frankly, I don't even want this glow stick. He held up the starfang slightly. Happy to hand it over if it stops you guys from posturing. Vorlag's eyes lit with avarice, reaching for the sword. But Zilia moved faster, her hand clamping down on Kale's wrist, stopping him. Her touch sent that familiar jolt through him, stronger this time, almost possessive. He does not understand the bond, she said, her voice tight, addressing Vorlag, but her eyes burning into Kael's. The blade cannot simply be handed over. It has chosen. He is bound. She didn't release his wrist. Her grip was firm, her scales warm against his skin. Her lights pulsed a complex pattern of gold and cyan. He looked from her intense gaze to Vorlag's furious one. Bound? What the hell did that mean? He was starting to feel less like a king and more like a pawn in a very weird, very high-stakes alien power struggle. And Zilia, her fierce defense, her possessive touch, it was confusing, unnerving, and disturbingly attractive. Vorlag wasn't backing down. His crimson markings pulsed aggressively. Bound? Or ensnared by your manipulation, Zilia? This off-worlder lacks the strength, the lineage, the resonance. He cannot possibly wield the Starfang's true power. Let him prove it. A trial by resonance. Now, his challenge hung in the human air. The other two lumina with him straightened, their expressions eager for conflict. Kale felt Zilia's grip tighten almost imperceptibly on his wrist. He could feel the tension humming through her. He is untrained, she argued, her voice low and tight. The blade's energy is volatile. Then he is unfit, Vorlag spat. Or are you afraid, Zilia? Afraid your pet king will shatter? He took a menacing step forward. Pet King Ape? Unworthy? Screw this! He pulled his wrist free from Zilia's grasp, stepping forward to face Vorlag directly, the starfang held loosely at his side. All right, shiny scales you want to show? Fine. He had no idea what trial by resonance meant, but Vorlag's arrogance grated on him more than the potential danger. What do I gotta do? Hum in tune with the magic sword? Arm wrestle? Vorlag smirked, clearly pleased. You will attempt to channel the Starfang's energy into the focusing conduit. He gestured towards a crystalline spire rising from the center of the landing pad, previously unnoticed by Kale. It pulsed with a faint internal light. A simple task for the true bearer, impossible for a pretender. Zilia put a hand on Kale's arm. Kale, no, it could overwhelm you. The feedback, I got this, Kale said, trying to project confidence. He glanced at her, saw the genuine concern in her glowing eyes, the slight tremor in her light patterns. It strengthened his resolve. He wouldn't let Vorlag humiliate her or him. He stepped towards the crystal spire, acutely aware of every eye on him. He took a deep breath, trying to remember the feeling when he first pulled the sword, the hum, the connection. He lifted the starfang, pointing the tip towards the conduit. Nothing happened. The sword just hummed faintly in his hand. Vorlag chuckled darkly. See? An empty V. Vessel. Kale ignored him, focusing, trying to push something outwards. Energy? Willpower? He squeezed the hilt, frustration building. Come on, you stupid glow stick. Work with me. He felt a warmth spread from the hilt up his arm, a familiar buzz, but it wouldn't project, wouldn't channel. Then he felt something else, a presence at his back. Zilia. She hadn't moved, but he could feel her focus, her energy like a tangible force reaching out to him. He felt her encouragement, her belief washing over him. Residence. Her voice seemed to echo in his mind, not translated, but understood. Connect, don't force, harmonize. He closed his eyes for a second, filtering out Vorlag's smugness, the tension from the guards. He focused on the hum of the sword, the feeling of Zilia's presence, letting them merge. He didn't push, he opened. A floodgate burst within him. Energy surged from the starfang, raw, potent, almost overwhelming. It wasn't just his energy, it felt like Xylia's was pouring into him, blending, amplifying. A blinding beam of pure white light erupted from the sword's tip, striking the focusing conduit. The crystal spire flared, overloading with brilliance, emitting a deep, resonating tone that shook the very stone beneath our feet. Kale felt the power roar through him, exhilarating and terrifying, lighting up every nerve ending. It arced through the spire, then back towards him, a feedback loop of pure energy. For a terrifying second, he thought Zilia was right, that it would shatter him. But then it settled, the sword's hum deepening into a steady, powerful thrum, the light beam holding firm, bathing the landing pad in its intense glow. He stood there, breathing hard, arm trembling slightly, holding the torrent of energy steady. Vorlag and his guards stared, stunned into silence, their arrogant lights dimmed, replaced by shock and fear? Kale held the connection for another few seconds, then slowly, carefully let it subside. The beam faded, the crystal spire's light returning to normal. Silence descended, broken only by Kale's ragged breathing and the steady, powerful hum of the starfang. He lowered the sword, feeling drained but strangely invigorated. He turned, meeting Zilia's gaze. Her eyes were wide, her lights swirling in a dazzling, chaotic mix of gold, cyan, and stunned white. The raw power, the shared intensity of the moment, hung between them, thick and electric. They stared at each other, the world narrowing to just the two of them, the adrenaline singing in their veins. Vorlag's choked gasp broke the spell. Kale had proven something all right, but the look in Xylia's eyes, that felt like a different kind of surge. Just as potent, just as dangerous. The immediate aftermath was anticlimactic. Vorlag, pale beneath his scales, muttered something about needing to report this anomaly and retreated quickly with his guards, casting wary glances back at Kale. Zilia dismissed the need for pursuit with a sharp gesture, her focus entirely elsewhere. As soon as they were gone, the adrenaline seemed to drain out of Kale all at once, leaving him shaky and disoriented. The sheer force of the energy he'd channeled, amplified by Xylia's resonance, had been unlike anything he'd ever experienced. He leaned heavily against the cool metal hull of Xylia's ship, the starfang still thrumming faintly in his hand, feeling more like an anchor than a weapon now. He needed a minute, or maybe a year. Xylia approached him slowly, her usual fluid grace seeming hesitant for the first time since he'd met her. The dazzling chaos of her lights had subsided into a softer, more complex pattern of deep blues and shimmering silvers, pulsing gently. She stopped in front of him, her gaze searching high. His face, her expression unreadable but intense. "Are you stable, Kael?" Her voice was lower than usual, the resonant quality softer. "Define stable," he managed, trying for sarcasm, but it came out breathless. "Feeling like I just mainlined a star, but otherwise peachy?" He met her eyes. The raw energy of the trial still sparked between them, an invisible current. She reached out, her scaled fingers gently tracing the side of his neck, near where his pulse hammered. He didn't flinch this time. Her touch was cool, soothing, yet it sent a cascade of new sensations through him. The slight rasp of her scales against his skin, the faint vibration he could feel emanating from her, the intimacy of the gesture, it short-circuited his remaining defenses. Your energy. It accepted the convergence, she murmured, her eyes locked on his. Her thumb brushed his jawline. It embraced the starfang. Embraced. The connection. The air thickened, charged with more than just residual energy. The lingering adrenaline, the shared danger, the undeniable pull that had been simmering between them since that first spark in the ruins. It all coalesced in the sudden quiet. Her scent, ozone and spice, seemed richer, drawing him in. The soft glow of her maw. Arcings illuminated the lines of her face, alien and yet achingly beautiful. He saw the slight parting of her lips, the flicker of her own quickened pulse beneath the silver light near her throat. Without conscious thought, he lifted a hand, his fingers brushing the smooth, cool scales along her cheekbone. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into his touch almost imperceptibly, her eyes darkening, the pupils dilating. Her lights flared, a sudden wave of warm magenta washing over her skin, mirroring the heat rising in his own body. The distance between them vanished, her lips met his, tentative at first, then deepening with a surprising heat. It wasn't human, the texture slightly different, the pressure conveying a complex mix of curiosity, possessiveness, and something that felt startlingly like relief. He responded instinctively, his other arm sliding around her waist, pulling her close. She felt solid, strong, her body radiating warmth against his, her tail coiled lightly around his leg, a possessive, balancing anchor. The kiss was electric, fueled by everything that had led them here. The confusion, the danger, the reluctant fascination, the surge of shared power. Her hand slid up his chest, fingers tangling in the collar of his jacket. He tilted his head, deepening the kiss, exploring the unfamiliarity, captivated by the sheer alienness and the raw, undeniable connection. The starfang, forgotten for a moment, pulsed with a warm golden light against his hips, seemingly content. This was insane. Kissing an alien warrior princess who thought he was king because he pulled her magic sword out of a rock? But as her body molded against his, her lights pulsing against his skin, her scent filling his senses, sanity felt vastly overrated. The kiss broke, leaving them both breathless, foreheads resting against each other. Kale's heart hammered against his ribs, a chaotic rhythm matching the swirling patterns of Xylia's bioluminescence, now a dizzying mix of magenta, gold, and deep violet. Her scent was thick in the air, intoxicating. He could feel the fine tremors running through her powerful frame, mirroring his own. Okay, he breathed, his voice rough. So, that happened. Xylia pulled back slightly, enough to look him in the eyes. Her usual sharp intensity was softened, replaced by a raw vulnerability that stunned him. Your resonance. It calls to mine. Kael, stronger now, since the trial. She traced the line of his jaw again, her touch sending verse down his spine. The bond, it is not just the blade, he swallowed, trying to process the implications. This wasn't just physical attraction, not just adrenaline. It was deeper, weirder, woven into the alien energy that flowed through her, through the sword, and now, apparently, through him. So, this bond? He started, trying to sound casual, failing miserably. Does it come with a manual? Because I'm kind of flying blind here. A faint smile touched her lips, the first genuine, unguarded smile he'd seen from her. It transformed her face, making her look younger, less like a warrior queen and more just Xylia. The Lumina ways are not written, Kael, they are felt, experienced. Her hand slid down his chest, pausing over his heart. Shared? Her gaze held his, questioning, inviting. The air crackled with unspoken possibilities. He knew, with sudden certainty, that this was a threshold. He could pull back, try to maintain distance, cling to the shreds of his old guarded life, or he could step forward into this strange, intense connection with this bewildering alien woman. His hand found hers, lacing his fingers through her surprisingly strong, scaled ones. Her skin was warm, smooth, alive. Her lights pulsed in response, a soft, warm glow enveloping them. Okay, he said softly, show me. She led him onto her ship, the ramp closing silently behind them, sealing them in the vessel's low, ambient light. The interior was sleek, minimalist, organic lines blending seamlessly with advanced tech. She guided him through silent corridors to a private chamber, the door sliding shut with a soft hiss. The room was simple, dominated by a low, wide platform covered in dark, soft material. The lighting was dim, emanating from glowing strips along the walls that currently cycled through calming blues and greens. Xylia turned to face him, her expression serious now, yet open. "Physical union deepens the resonance," she stated, matter-of-factly, yet her eyes held a simmering heat. "It confirms the bond, shares strength, sensation." She reached up, slowly unclasping the intricate fastenings of her upper garment. The dark, flexible material slid away, revealing shoulders and collarbones covered in the same iridescent scales, shimmering in the low light. Her markings pulsed more brightly, tracing elegant patterns across her skin. Kael's breath caught. She was magnificent. Alien, yes, but undeniably beautiful, her body a canvas of shifting light and shadow. He felt a wave of possessiveness, unexpected and fierce, mirroring the way she had defended him earlier. He reached out, his fingers tracing the edge of a glowing cyan pattern near her shoulder. Her skin was incredibly warm, almost feverish to his touch. She shivered, a low, resonant hum vibrating in her chest. "Your touch," she whispered, her eyes fluttering closed for a moment. "It ignites." He leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to the spot his fingers had just touched. Her scent enveloped him, ozone and spice and something uniquely her. He felt her hand on his back, pulling him closer, her strength surprising. The playful dominance games, the sarcastic banter, melted away, replaced by a raw, urgent need. Skin against scales, human warmth meeting lumina heat, light pulsing against shadow. They came together, slowly at first, then with building intensity. A dance of discovery and surrender. It was unlike anything Kael had ever known. Sensory overload, alien textures, shifting lights playing over naked skin, the low hum of her resonance vibrating through him, meeting his own quickened pulse. It was exploration, mapping the unfamiliar landscape of each other's bodies, learning through touch, through taste, through shared breath. Her control, her usual dominance fractured, replaced by gasps and shivers, her lights flaring uncontrollably with pleasure. His own guardedness dissolved completely, lost in the overwhelming tide of sensation and connection. It wasn't just sex, it was communion, a merging of energy, a sealing of the strange bond the Starfang had forged between them. Later, tangled together on the soft platform, the ambient light casting gentle patterns over their bodies, a fragile peace settled between them. Kael lay on his back, Xylia curled against his side, her head resting on his chest, her tail draped possessively over his legs. Her lights pulsed softly, a steady, contented rhythm of deep blues and greens. Her scales felt smooth and warm against his skin. He ran his fingers lightly over her shoulder, feeling the subtle texture, the heat radiating from her. It still felt surreal, yet undeniably real. "So," he murmured into the quiet, his voice husky, "this resonance thing, it's always this intense?" He felt her low hum of amusement vibrate against his chest. She tilted her head back slightly to look at him, her eyes soft in the dim light. With a true resonance partner? Yes, the potential has always existed within the Lumina, but finding a true match? Especially now, with our people scattered, our connection to the homeworld fading, it is rare. She paused, her expression turning serious. For it to happen with an outsider, with a human, it is unheard of. Impossible, many would say. Kael traced the line of a glowing marking on her arm. Vorlog certainly wasn't a fan. Vorlog craves power, Xylia said dismissively, though a flicker of red crossed her lights. He saw the Starfang as his birthright, denied to him. He would use its power for dominance, not for restoration. Restoration? Kael prompted gently. She sighed, a soft exhalation of breath. Our world, Lumina Prime, it suffers. A slow decay, an energy imbalance that began cycles ago after the Great Schism. Our connection to it, our life force, weakens with each passing generation. The Starfang, it is believed to be the key, not just a symbol of leadership, but a tool, capable of stabilizing the planetary core, of reigniting our fading connection, if wielded by the rightful bearer, one with the correct resonance. And that's me? Kale asked, still finding it hard to believe. The sword seems to think so. My resonance? Confirms it. She pressed her cheek against his chest again. I was sent here, to this old outpost, world, following fragmented prophecies, ancient energy signatures, searching for the Starfang, hoping its recovery could guide us. She hesitated. I expected to find a Lumina warrior, a lost descendant of the royal line perhaps, not a sarcastic human scavenger poking around in the ruins, he finished for her, a wry smile touching his lips. She lifted her head again, meeting his gaze. No, not you. Her expression was earnest, vulnerable, but the blade does not lie, and my heart resonates with its choice. He felt his own heart give a painful squeeze. Heart. She'd used the human word, not just resonance core or whatever her species called it. The emotional intimacy of the moment felt almost more overwhelming than the physical intensity that had preceded it. He brushed a stray lock of dark, fine hair from her temple. Hair? No, more like silky, dark filaments growing near her head crests. Details he hadn't noticed before. Zelia, he began, unsure what to say. He wasn't a king, he wasn't a hero, he was just a guy trying to get by, running from a past he didn't like to talk about. A corporate piloting gig gone sour, accusations, betrayal. He was used to being alone, keeping people at arm's length. But looking into our glowing eyes, feeling the steady beat of her life force against him, the idea of pushing her away felt wrong, impossible even. I don't know anything about saving worlds, he admitted quietly, or being a king. You wielded the blade, she countered softly. You connected to the conduit. You connected to me. You have the potential. She touched his face, her scaled fingers surprisingly gentle. And you will not be alone. We face this together. Together. The word hung in the air, heavy with promise and peril. He looked at her, really looked at her, the strength in her features, the intelligence in her eyes, the fierce loyalty she'd already shown him. Maybe he wasn't just Kale, the washed-up scavenger anymore. Maybe the Starfang and Zelia saw something else, something worth fighting for. He pulled her closer, burying his face in the unique scent of her skin and filaments. Okay, he whispered, together. Their newfound peace was shattered by a jarring klaxon blaring through the ship, bathing the chamber in flashing red emergency lights. Zelia was instantly alert, disentangling herself from Kale and rising in one fluid motion, her lights shifting to sharp, urgent reds and oranges. Intruder alert! The ship's synthesized voice announced calmly. Multiple hostile vessels detected. Cathar energy signatures identified. Cathar? Kale scrambled up, pulling on his discarded clothes, grabbing the Starfang instinctively. The sword hummed, reacting to the sudden danger, its internal light brightening. Slavers, Zelia spat, securing her own garments with practiced speed, her face grim. Vultures. They prey on weakened systems, isolated outposts. Vorlag. He must have contacted them, offered them the blade, or perhaps me, in exchange for their support. Her eyes flashed with fury. Traitorous fool. On the main view screen in the cockpit, several brutally utilitarian ships, pitted and menacing, were closing fast on their position. Weapons ports glowed ominously. Kale gripped the Starfang tighter, just when things started getting good, of course. Can we outrun them? He asked, scanning the tactical display over Xylia's shoulder. She shook her head, her fingers flying over the control panels, bringing the ship's systems online. Not in atmosphere, and they're positioned to block our jump vector. We fight. Her voice was cold, determined. The warrior queen was back. Right, fight. Against how many? 4 cruisers, heavily armed. She glanced up at him, a flicker of concern in her eyes before hardening again. Strap in, and try not to break my ship, King. He grinned despite the situation. Wouldn't dream of it, your scaliness. He secured himself in the co-pilot chair, the familiar motions calming his nerves slightly. He might not know how to save planets, but he knew his way around a cockpit. Xylia banked the ship hard, engines roaring as they lifted off the landing pad, narrowly dodging an incoming volley of plasma fire that turned the ancient stones below into molten slag. Kale's hands instinctively went to the secondary controls, weapons, systems, shield modulation. "Shields holding at 80%, he reported, tracking the incoming fire. "Targeting systems online. Give me something to shoot at." "Focus fire on the lead cruiser's engines," Xylia commanded, executing a dizzying evasive maneuver that pressed Kale deep into his seat. "If we can disable one, we might even the odds." He locked onto the target, the ship's targeting reticle glowing green. "Firing!" Energy bolts lance out from Xylia's ship, striking the Cathar cruiser's flank. Explosions blossomed against its shields. Return fire hammered against their own defenses. "Shields at 60, Ko yelled over T. He roar of combat, another volley slammed into them. 40%, they were taking too much damage. "We need to break their formation." Xylia grunted, pushing the engines to their limit. Suddenly Kale felt that familiar buzz, the connection through the Starfang, flaring to life. But it wasn't just a connection to Xylia this time, it felt broader. He glanced down at the sword resting on his lap. Its light was pulsing intensely, resonating with the ship's systems. An idea sparked. Crazy, but maybe, just maybe. "Xylia, can you channel auxiliary power through the main emitter array?" She shot him a confused look, dodging another blast. "Theoretically, but it risks overload. Why?" "The sword. When I hit the conduit, it amplified, channeled energy. Maybe I can do it again. Through the ship's systems. Give the shields a boost, or power the weapons." She hesitated for only a second, then nodded sharply. "Diverting power conduits now, but Kal, if the feedback—" "We don't have much choice." He gripped the Starfang, planting its tip against a glowing energy node on the console specifically designed for auxiliary input. He closed his eyes, focusing, reaching out with his senses, feeling Xylia's resonance join his, stabilizing, guiding. "Now!" He poured energy into the sword, visualizing it flowing out, merging with the ship's power core, surging into the shield emitters. Outside, the ship's shields flared with blinding intensity, absorbing a direct hit from the Cathar cruisers without buckling. "Shields back to 90%! Xylia cried out, stunned but instantly adapting. "Weapons capacitors overloading! Kale, you're incredible!" He gritted his teeth, sweat beading on his forehead as he maintained the energy flow. It was draining, but exhilarating. He felt Xylia's strength bolstering his own, their combined energy turning her ship into something more. "Give 'em hell, Xylia!" he yelled, opening his eyes to see her unleash a devastating barrage from the overcharged weapons, crippling the lead Cathar cruiser. Seeing their advantage suddenly reverse, the remaining slavers hesitated, then broke off, retreating into the upper atmosphere. Silence fell in the cockpit, broken only by their ragged breathing and the steady hum of the Starfang, now radiating a gentle warmth. Kale slumped back in his seat, exhausted but grinning. Xylia turned to him, her eyes wide, her lights a brilliant swirling gold. "Ka-El!" He met her gaze, the intensity of their shared battle, air combined power sparking between them more fiercely than ever. They had faced death together, fought as one. Whatever doubts he'd had, whatever fear lingered, was burned away in the crucible of combat. He wasn't just her consort, her accidental king, he was her partner. With the Cathar repelled, a tense quiet descended. Xylia piloted her ship away from the battle-scarred landing pad, setting a course for a hidden Lumina asteroid base, a temporary refuge for her exiled faction. The adrenaline faded, leaving behind exhaustion and the heavy weight of their new reality. Kale watched the starfield streak past the viewport. It felt different in his hand now, less alien, more like an extension of himself, especially after channeling its energy through the ship. He glanced at Xylia. She was focused on the navigation, but her usual sharp lines seemed softer, the bioluminescent patterns along her temples pulsing a gentle, contemplative blue. "So," he said, breaking the silence, "Vorlog sold us out to slavers. Charming guy." Xylia's jaw tightened, a flicker of angry red crossing her lights. "His ambition blinded him to honor, to the Cathara's depravi. They would have enslaved what remains of our people once they had the blade." She sighed, the sound weary. He will be dealt with, but the Kithvar know about the Starfang now. They know it's active. They won't stop hunting it. Hunting you. Kale looked down at his hands. King, bearer of the Starfang, residence partner, slaver, target. His life had taken a sharp turn into territory he couldn't have imagined even a few days ago. Part of him, the old Kale, wanted to run, to find his dilapidated freighter and disappear back into the anonymous fringes of the galaxy. But looking at Zilia, remembering the fight, the connection, running felt like cowardice, like betrayal. They'll be hunting us. He corrected quietly. He reached over, tentatively touching her arm. She turned her head, meeting his gaze, her expression searching. I'm not leaving, Zilia. Not after everything. Relief warred with concern in her eyes. Kyle, you don't understand the burden. Being the bearer of the Starfang, it means leading my people. It means trying to heal our world. It is a lifetime commitment fraught with danger, with political maneuvering you cannot fathom. Maybe not, he admitted, but I learn fast, and I'm pretty good in a fight, apparently. He offered a small smile. Besides, you said it yourself. We face this together. He paused, the next words feeling heavy, important. I don't want to be king, not in the way Vorlag wanted, ruling over anyone, but this blade, it chose me. You resonate with me. Your people need hope. Maybe we can figure out a different way. Partnership, not ruler and subjects. Zilia studied him for a long moment, her head tilted, her lights shifting through thoughtful shades of cyan and silver. A partnership, she echoed softly, between a Lumina warrior exiled for seeking hope and a human scavenger who stumbled into prophecy. A ghost of her rare smile touched her lips. It is unconventional. Story of my life, Kale quipped, feeling a surprising lightness bloom in his chest. So, partner? He held out his hand. She looked at his outstretched hand, then back at his face. The warmth in her eyes deepened. She placed her scaled hand in his, her grip firm, resolute. The familiar jolt sparked between them, but this time it felt less like static electricity and more like a current of understanding, of shared purpose. Partner, she confirmed, her voice filled with a new strength, a new hope. The ship sped on through the darkness, carrying them towards an uncertain future, towards asteroids hiding allies, towards enemies regrouping in the shadows, towards the monumental task of saving a world. It was terrifying, it was insane, but as he held Zilia's hand, feeling the steady thrum of the Starfang nearby, Kale felt something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. They reached the asteroid base, a network of tunnels and hidden chambers carved into a massive chunk of rock drifting through a dense nebula. It was functional, stark, home to a few hundred Lumina loyal to Xylia's cause, preserving ancient knowledge, seeking reunification, finding a way to heal their homeworld. News of the Starfang's recovery and its unlikely bearer had preceded them. Kale found himself the subject of intense curiosity, awe, and suspicion. Whispers followed him through the corridors. The off-world king, the resonance anomaly. But Zilia stood firmly beside him, her authority unquestioned here, her open acceptance of him silencing most dissent, at least for now. They were given modest quarters, adjacent but separate, a concession to Lumina customs and the remaining uncertainty surrounding Kyle's role. But the connection between them was undeniable, a tangible thing that seemed to hum in the recycled air whenever they were near each other. Late one cycle, Kale found himself unable to sleep, pacing the small confines of his room. The weight of expectation, the sheer alienness of his situation, pressed down on him. He picked up the Starfang from where it rested against the wall. It felt warm, familiar, pulsing faintly in his grip. He wasn't a king, he wasn't a savior, he was just Kyle. A door slid open silently. Xylia stood there, bathed in the soft glow emanating from her own quarters. She wore simple, soft garments, her lights muted, pulsing a gentle, calming azure. You are restless, Kyle. It wasn't a question, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. Just processing. It's a lot. The sword, the slavers, being called king by people whose language I barely understand. He looked at her, vulnerability warring with his ingrained need to appear strong. Am I crazy for even considering this, for staying? She glided into his room, the door closing silently behind her. She didn't speak immediately, just came to stand before him, close enough that he could feel her warmth, smell that unique scent of ozone and spice. She reached out, not for the sword, but for his free hand lacing her fingers through his. Is it crazy to answer destiny's call, even when it speaks in a strange tongue? She asked softly, her thumb brushing over his knuckles. Is it crazy to follow the resonance that sings between two souls across the vastness of space? Her eyes held his, deep and luminous. Maybe. Or maybe it is the sanest thing in the universe. He searched her face, seeing the unwavering belief there, the strength, the affection. The fear that had gripped him began to loosen its hold, replaced by a quiet certainty. He leaned down, resting his forehead against hers, closing his eyes. The starfang hummed softly in his other hand, a third presence in the room, connecting them. Okay, he whispered. No more running. He lifted his head, meeting her gaze. But I'm still not wearing a crown. Maybe a cool jacket? A genuine soft laugh escaped her, a beautiful, resonant sound. We can negotiate the attire later, my king. The title still felt strange, but hearing it from her now, laced with warmth and teasing affection, didn't rankle. It felt right in their own unconventional way. He leaned in, capturing her lips in a kiss that was gentle, promising, sealing their partnership, not with the fire of battle or the heat of passion, but with quiet understanding and shared hope. Her lights brightened, swirling patterns of contented blues and warm golds, washing over her skin, reflecting in his eyes. He pulled her closer, one hand holding the ancient blade that had inexplicably tied their fates together, the other holding the woman who made that fate seem not like a burden, but a future worth fighting for. The universe was vast, the challenges immense, but here, in this small room, light years from Earth, Kaol felt like he'd finally found his way home. Together,